Nathan, 32, had been married to Ava, 33, for nearly 7 years. Their marriage had always been peaceful and stable, with no children by choice, something that suited them both. But recently, things had begun to shift. Ava had started expressing dissatisfaction with her life, claiming she felt stagnant and stuck in a routine. A few months ago, she even mentioned the idea of having a child to add some excitement to her life. Though they had agreed early on that children weren't part of their future. Nathan told her he was open to discussing it. However, after only a few conversations, Ava dismissed the idea entirely, calling it a passing thought. Nathan assumed it was just a phase, not realizing it was the beginning of something far worse. Then, one evening, Ava casually told Nathan she was going on a date. His first thought was that she was joking. But when her serious expression didn't change, the reality hit him. She explained that the date was with Eric, a colleague of hers. According to Ava, it was just a way to add excitement to her life. Nathan was in shock. How could this be happening? Ava remained calm, almost indifferent, as she explained how she and Eric had bonded over feeling stuck in their own lives. Assured Nathan that it was just a casual dinner, nothing serious. When Nathan asked why she called it a date, she responded coldly, saying it was about transparency. To her, being upfront made it less painful, but to Nathan, it only made things worse. Ava kissed him lightly on the forehead before walking off to get ready for her date. Nathan sat frozen on the couch, overwhelmed by a mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. He watched her get dressed in her favorite scarlet dress, the one she always wore for special occasions. The realization hit him hard. She wasn't dressing for him, but for someone else. As she smiled to herself in the mirror, Nathan's world seemed to crumble around him. This wasn't the woman he had married, and she didn't seem to care. Feeling desperate for advice, Nathan called his best friend, Kevin. Though he didn't want to admit the truth, he framed it as a problem a colleague was going through. Kevin suggested it might be innocent, but deep down, Nathan knew it wasn't. This wasn't just a harmless dinner. It was betrayal. Ava returned home earlier than expected around 9:30 p.m. wearing a strange smile. Her lipstick was smudged. Her eyes looked tired. She hugged Nathan and whispered, "It was so exciting, Nathan. Just what I needed." He felt a sharp pain in his chest. Then Ava dropped another bombshell. She and Eric were planning a weekend trip together. Nathan couldn't process it. He stood there numb as Ava seemed completely oblivious to the devastation she was causing. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He replayed the events over and over in his mind. Realizing the truth, his marriage was over. But if Ava thought she could walk away without consequences, she was wrong. Nathan had been loyal for 7 years. And this was how she repaid him. The more he thought about it, the more determined he became to make her regret her actions. Wouldn't beg her to stay or fight with her. Instead, he would make her feel the weight of her choices. By Saturday afternoon, Nathan had installed new locks on the house if his key no longer worked. He packed all her belongings into trash bags and moved them to the garage. That night, he silently watched as Ava packed her suitcase, excited for her trip with Eric. She hummed to herself, oblivious to the finality of what was happening. Nathan recorded her on his phone, capturing her careless boasting about how free and alive she felt. He knew this footage would be crucial in the divorce and to prevent her from twisting the narrative later on. On Saturday morning, Eric's car pulled into the driveway. Ava, dressed in yet another red dress, blew Nathan a kiss as she climbed into the car. Nathan didn't react. He simply watched them drive away, the final nail in the coffin of their marriage. When Ava returned Sunday evening, she found herself locked out. Her key no longer worked, and she began pounding on the door, calling Nathan's name. From inside, Nathan watched her on the security camera, her desperation clear. Finally, he opened the door. B's tear-streaked face met his as she tried to push past him, but Nathan stood firm. He had warned her. Ava had always craved excitement, but now it was her end. It was far from the thrill she imagined. Her life, as she knew it, was over. She cried and begged, telling him she was sorry and blaming Eric for pressuring her. But none of it mattered. She had made her choice, and now it was time for her to face the consequences. He handed her the recording of her bragging about her weekend plans, and her face went pale as she realized she had been caught. "You destroyed us, Ava," he said coldly. "Now you'll navigate life alone." He pointed to the trash bags in the garage, telling her to leave. She pleaded with him, but he slammed the door in her face. For hours, she sat in the driveway, but he stayed firm. The divorce papers would be sent soon, and there was no turning back. The weeks after felt like living in the wreckage of a storm. The house, once full of noise and tension, was eerily quiet, but at least it was his. Ava had wanted excitement. Well, she could have it, but not with him. After filing for divorce, Nathan arranged the papers to be sent to Ava's parents' house, the only stable place she had left. She had been staying with her childhood friend, Julia, who probably had no idea about the chaos Ava had caused. Despite everything, Ava didn't just accept reality. She bombarded Nathan with texts, calls, and voicemails. Each attempt grew more desperate, filled with pleas. Her mother even called Nathan once, begging him to reconsider. Oh, but he knew there was no future for them. Only a deep wound remained. He wanted it healed for good. Every time he saw her name on his phone, it wasn't just a reminder it dragged up. Memories he couldn't shake. The carefree laugh she had while packing for a weekend with Eric. Her dismissive attitude when he begged her not to go. Her belief that their marriage was unbreakable. Those memories strengthened his resolve. Ava betrayed him and there was no path back. He wasn't surprised when she made her next move. One afternoon, while he was in his office busy with reports, he heard raised voices outside his door. His secretary was speaking, but Ava's frantic tone rose above it all. "Please just let me talk to him," she begged. Nathan stepped into the hallway and saw her standing there holding the divorce papers. Her face was wet with tears, her hair disheveled. The confident woman he had known was going to replace by someone desperate and broken. His colleagues looked on uncomfortably as he led her into a private room. "What do you want, Ava?" he asked, his voice hard and cold. She held up the divorce papers, trembling, and said, "I can't sign these, Nathan. I love you. Please, let's talk. We can fix this." The woman before him was nothing like the one who had driven him to this point. All that was left in her was regret and sorrow. But he couldn't let himself feel sorry for her, not now. "We have nothing to discuss," he replied firmly. "You made your choices. Now you have to live with them." Tears filled her eyes and her voice cracked as she whispered, "It was a mistake. I thought it would be exciting, but it turned into a nightmare. I was stupid. I love you. You're the only person I've ever wanted." Anger boiled inside Nathan as he fought to stay calm. "You thought you could play with fire and then come back as if nothing happened? You expect me to forget all of this?" he asked. She reached out for his hand, but he stepped back. My answer," he said, walking out of the room, ignoring the sobs that followed. For a while after that, Ava stopped trying to contact him. Nathan heard she started therapy, perhaps the first real step she had taken toward change. But for him, it wasn't enough. He needed closure. He wanted her to truly understand the damage she had done. Spent days putting together a record of her affair with Eric, documenting every meeting, every moment she had tried to downplay. It wasn't just for potential evidence. It was a way to force her to see what she had done from his perspective. He sent it to her parents' house. The next morning, Ava called him again, leaving a voicemail. "I got your package," she said, her voice shaking with guilt. "I understand now, Nathan. I know what I did to you. I know I can never undo that. I wanted excitement, but I destroyed the most important thing I had. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand." Nathan listened to her message, a strange mixture of emotions washing over him. For the first time, she wasn't making excuses. She was acknowledging the hurt she had caused. And in that moment, he felt relief. She finally got it, and that was enough for him to begin healing. The divorce was finalized quietly a few weeks later. There were no dramatic scenes, no last-minute theatrics. Ava signed the papers without a fight and moved back in with her parents. Nathan stayed in the house's house now with her name erased from every corner of it. At first, the silence was unsettling, but over time he found peace in it. He wasn't coming home to pain or uncertainty anymore. He focused on himself again, went to the gym, rediscovered his love for hiking, and even picked up painting again. A hobby he had abandoned long ago. Kevin, his best friend, was always there to encourage him when he felt like giving up. Ava made one final attempt to reach out, sending a heartfelt letter apologizing again and telling him how she was working on herself. But Nathan didn't respond. It was enough for him that she understood the depth of her betrayal. Her journey was hers to McCandid no longer intersected with his. Months passed, and as the seasons changed, so did Nathan. He wasn't the broken man he once was. He had grown stronger, wiser. He realized that no matter how devastating the fall, it was always possible to rise again. One day during a hike with Kevin, he met a group of people, and among them was Emily. She was warm, easygoing, and had a smile that made him feel lighter. She joined them on the hike, and for the first time in what felt like ages, he found himself genuinely smiling. They talked, and soon after, he asked her out for coffee. It wasn't love at first sight, but it was real. Spending time with Emily reminded him of what love should be. Not grand gestures or dramatic fights, but consistency, respect, and kindness. It felt like a new beginning, one grounded in sincerity and mutual care. Nathan's story continues. But one thing is clear. Ava made her choices and paid the price. As for him, he chose to rebuild his life piece by piece. Whether Emily becomes his forever remains to be seen, but he knows this. No matter what happens, he's no longer the man he used to.